How are you guys doing tonight? It's not tonight yet, right? Today. One interesting thing is that as the list of sponsors was announced, like if you go to events, you see those long list of sponsors. Usually they, like it's just noise in front of the eyes. But every single company mentioned is actually a very prominent name in the user-owned AI space. So make sure to get back to that list and look at them and check them out. That's all pretty cool guys. Today I'm gonna. There has been a couple of very exciting events in the NEAR ecosystem in the past year. We launched chain signatures, which is a massive step towards open web, where you can have NEAR account, use the same NEAR account on any blockchain, right? So that like imagine if when you use Snapchat, you would have to actually log in through Google Cloud, and when you use Facebook, you have to log in through AWS. That wouldn't never make sense. And chain signatures is something that allows you to have the same experience on blockchain, where you don't need to think whether it's Solana or Aptos or NEAR or you name it. Then, for those of you who've been following our journey to building a sharded blockchain, we just launched stateless validation, which is a massive step towards that, to the realization of that dream. But today is 2024, so I guess the only thing people really want to hear about is artificial intelligence. So let's talk about artificial intelligence. Some of you might know, some of you don't, but NEAR started as an AI company. In 2017, Ilya and I started it as an effort to build what we called an AI developer, something that will be building programs instead of humans. In 2017, it was very ambitious. In 2024, it is less ambitious. So it might make a full circle. And today's keynote, most of it I will dedicate to talking about the AI developer. But before I talk about the AI developer, let's generally look at the artificial intelligence through the lens of the vision of NEAR. NEAR's vision is to build a world in which people are in control of their data, assets, and power of governance. And if you think of every technological revolution that happened recently, with a single exception of blockchain, each of them was ultimately captured by a very small number of companies, right? Mobile phones, it's only Google and Apple. Social networks, it's Facebook and Elon. And what happens is that without an exception, at the end of the day, users become the product, not customers. Their data gets collected, monetized, sold. And right now, if you think of artificial intelligence, where it's heading towards the same future, where OpenAI, Anthropic, potentially Google will fully capture this market, will get all the data from the users, and effectively the future that NEAR envisions is impossible if artificial intelligence continues being gated by those small number of companies, because presumably and very likely artificial intelligence will be a very big part of our lives going forward, changing the way we interact with practically everything. And because of that, we work towards this concept, and we have a very large effort internally and within the ecosystem called user-owned AI, which spans all things AI within blockchain. It means conducting research, applications, deployments of artificial intelligence systems. And two major parts of user-owned AI. One is that we need to have a sustainable path towards the future in which tier 1 artificial intelligence systems are open source and deployed in a way that is respectful of user data that benefits humanity. And this is not the case even today. Today, the most capable open source model, Llama 405B, is quite behind tier 1 models. And there is no path, like, GPT-5 is past due. The next Claude will probably happen in quick succession, but there is no path today towards having open source models continuing to compete. And this is something that needs to be solved and figured out. And secondly, even when you have open source models, they need to be deployed in a way that, today Llama 405B exists, but no regular user can deploy it, right? So at the end of the day, it is hosted somewhere. Their data still goes somewhere. That needs to be solved and figured out as well. At the core of any AI system today, there's a base model. As I mentioned, Llama 405B, GPT-4. I'm not going to talk too much about it today, but suffices to say it's very expensive to train them, and we need to figure out a way to to train them on distributed clusters, to pull resources together, find a way to monetize them in a way that creates a sustainable way of continuously training them. This is something that we're working on very extensively, but this is not something that will be happening short term. It's a longer term goal. In the short term, however, even with the base model, which is lagging behind from what exists in the from what corporations offer, you can get quite far by building things around it, right? You can fine-tune them. If you have good data, you can build agents which are taking advantage of the models in ways that squeeze much more performance than if you just use base model naively. And a lot of those things very nicely can benefit from Web3 and from blockchain. It includes decentralized storage, data monetization networks, inference agentic frameworks, payments, etc. In each and every one of those areas, we have ecosystem companies. This list is not full. I didn't have a chance to introduce some other companies that we have in the ecosystem, but generally we have a very vibrant, very large ecosystem of projects. I wanted to show a demo. We'll skip the demo. But I wanted to talk today about AI developer, which is a very exciting area of research, which was how NEAR started in 2017. The idea of the AI developer is that we are heading towards the future in which applications will be largely developed by machines and not by humans. Either humans will be guiding the process, but the process will be mostly done by machines, or potentially we will get into the future where machines fully do the building. And the way we look at it, and I think it's a very meaningful way to look at it, is that you begin your journey by talking to what we call an AI PM. And it's a system that hears to you, listens to your requirements. And requirements are generally very non-specific, right? If you guys ever dealt with so outsourcing shops, you know that a lot gets lost in translation when you interact with a non-AI PM, with a human PM. But the AI PM has an advantage that what it can do internally is it can try to create a formal specification of what you want to do, and then communicate this formal specification back to you using a deterministic process, right? And then you as a human can look at what it understood, and you can say, well, yes, it is what I want, or it is not what you want, and then you can iterate. And so the result is that there is this specification which is precisely what you want, right? And then having the specification which precisely captures what the developer wants, it can go to a variety of other AI agents that will build it, or a system which has human in the loop. And this is a good example. So we have some of those components we actively iterate on and try to build. So this is an example where we ask to build a decentralized freelance marketplace, and it gets back to you with the understanding of the specification, user stories. And then from there, we have prototypes of the agents that build all aspects of the application, smart contracts, front ends, and middleware. Front ends is probably the most advanced. Models are extremely good at building front ends because half of the GitHub is front ends. It's way more effort is still needed on the smart contracts, where you generally need much more of a feedback loop, iterating, testing. And on the smart contract side, also one particularly exciting area is that smart contracts generally should be very correct, right? And this has not been the case. And as a matter of fact, the fact that smart contracts have bugs is what preventing us from fully realizing the promise of the blockchain, right? Because the idea of the blockchain is that you go there and the code is the law, and you know that what you want to happen to your assets is exactly what happens to your assets. But the problem is that the code is not necessarily what it is you think when you look at it, right? And that's something where AI is potentially going to make a massive change, because AI might enable, might make it way more plausible to write contracts in a formally verifiable manner. So technology exists today. There is Lean, there is COQ, there are other systems. The problem is that for 1 day of work on building the smart contract, formally verifying it can easily take a month or several months. So it's completely economically non-viable today to do that. And there are very, very few smart contracts in existence that are formally verified, despite the fact that the technology exists. But with the advent of AI, that will be changing. Generally, AI developer is a very exciting direction because one of the biggest problems of crypto space is that we have very few developers who work full-time. We have this chicken and egg problem where there are very few developers, meaning very few applications. Users are not coming because there is no applications. Developers are not coming because there is no users. And if now any person with a basic understanding of how blockchain works can go and build an application or build the first prototype of the application on the fly, that will be a massive boost towards building, seeding the Web3 ecosystem with more applications, especially as we move towards open web, where we want to have Web3 get into more and more areas of our lives. Having the ability to seed those applications, to create them quickly will be paramount. And it's in, two last things I wanted to cover is how that fits into the global mission of building user-owned AI and how user-owned AI mission helps building the AI developer. So first of all, building an AI developer, even though it seems like one of the most, like when I think about applications of AI, I think AI developer is one of the most exciting areas, but it is also, interestingly, one of the most straightforward areas of applying AI because code has this property that it can be tested, right? And therefore, you can iterate on, like when you build agents, when you build systems, it's much easier to benchmark them. It's much easier to iterate. So that's a process that is something very tractable. And as you build infrastructure for research in general, AI developer is a very good test bed. Because if you cannot work on the AI developer, that's a very good indication your infrastructure in general is not appropriate and is not adequate for the task. Then formal verification. AI developer is a great way of working towards the formal verification, and formal verification is something that will enable, like this is how we will be able to achieve the full promise of blockchain. Once you can look at the smart contract and say with a 100% certainty that the smart contract is doing what it promises to do, this is when the blockchain will fully deliver on its promise of smart assets and smart money. AI developer is a great way to test many other things which are being built today, such as integration with tools, integrations with APIs, interaction with applications. So it's generally a very good test bed for building the infrastructure for general research in artificial intelligence to push forward the space. One interesting question is it science fiction? In 2017, when we started, that was probably still way too ambitious. And the only reason we believed it was possible because in 2017, if you roll back to that year, the momentum of AI was very steep. And unfortunately, it plateaued by the end of 2017, right? It did not continue on the same trajectory, so our projection was wrong. But in 2024, even what we have today is already with very high probability sufficient to build AI developer. It's just primarily it's primarily work that is still done. It's not, there is no breakthrough that is missing. And you will see this leaderboard. It's SweBench. SweBench is the benchmark that tries to measure how well AI is doing at closing actual pull requests and issues on GitHub. And you can see like when the slide was made, it was 20%. It's actually much more right now. It's an old slide. It's getting to much bigger numbers now. And finally, the way user-owned AI is helping to achieve this potential is, first of all, generally at NEAR, we're working on a single place, a single framework where researchers, application builders, ecosystem projects can work together on advancing AI research. It's a single place where we're going to be orchestrating compute, data, models, so that as a AI researcher, as an application developer, you go to that one single place and you have access to everything, all the latest and greatest. And this is the place from which we, as the foundation, will be funding and driving research of user-owned AI. Right? It's important to understand that researchers, for many AI researchers, the absolute like the highlight of their career would be to go to OpenAI. Many of them dream about going there. And if we want to attract the tier 1 talent, we need to provide them with the same amount of resources, same amount of compute, same amount of data. The goal of this is effectively to achieve that. That concludes my talk. You guys know you should come to Redacted. Thank you.